neither did I myself linger, but with my weighty fetters slipped up from under the rest, and then heaved myself upon a stone, which I laid hold of. Howbeit I was caught at several times by others, from whom yet as well as I might, I still guarded myself with hands and feet. For we imagine no other, but that we should all be set at liberty, which yet fell out quite otherwise. For, after the nobles who looked upon us from above through the hole had recreated themselves a while with our struggling and lamenting, a certain hoary-headed ancient man called to us to be quiet, and having scarcely obtained this, began, as I still remember, to speak on thus. If the poor human race were not so arrogant, it would have been given much good from my mother's heritage, but because the human race will not take heed, it lies in such straits and must be held in prison. And yet my dearest mother will not regard their mischief. She leaves her lovely gifts, that many a man might come to the light, though this may chance but seldom, that they be better prized, nor reckoned as mere fable. Therefore, in honour of the feast, which we shall hold today, that her grace may be multiplied, a good work will she do. The rope will now be lowered. Whoever may hang on to it, he shall be freed. He had scarcely finished speaking, when an ancient matron commanded her servants to let down the cord 7 times into the dungeon, and draw up whosoever could hang upon it. Good God, that I could sufficiently describe the hurry and disquiet that then arose amongst us, for everyone strove to get to the cord, and yet only hindered each other.
In a gripping tale of despair and redemption, prisoners languish under the cruel gaze of nobles, only to be offered a rare chance at freedom by an ancient figure. She speaks of humanity's arrogance and the generous gifts from a maternal benefactor ignored by the blinded masses. Amidst a chaotic scramble for a lifeline lowered into their dark confines, only a select few can seize the chance to escape. This story weaves a haunting narrative of the human spirit's struggle against its own flaws, amid a fleeting hope of salvation. The story captures an intense struggle for freedom and the human condition's poignant vulnerabilities in time.
And yet only hindered each other. But after 7 minutes a sign was given by a little bell, whereupon at the first pull the servants drew up 4. At that time I could not get very near the cord, having, as is before mentioned, to my huge misfortune, betaken myself to a stone at the wall of the dungeon, and thereby I was made unable to get to the cord which descended in the middle. The cord was let down the 2nd time, but many, because their chains were too heavy and their hands too tender, could not keep their hold on the cord, but with themselves beat down many another, who else perhaps might have held fast enough. Nay, many a one was forcibly pulled off by another, who yet could not himself get at it. So mutually envious were we even in this our great misery. But they of all others most moved my compassion, whose weight was so heavy that they tore their very hands from their bodies, and yet could not get up. Thus it came to pass that at those 5 times very few were drawn up, for as soon as the sign was given, the servants were so nimble at drawing the cord up, that the most part tumbled one upon another, and the cord, this time especially, was drawn up very empty, whereupon the greatest part, and even I myself, despaired of redemption, and called upon God that he would have pity on us, and, if possible, deliver us out of this obscurity, who then also heard some of us. For when the cord came down the 6th time, some of them hung themselves fast upon it, and whilst being drawn up, the cord swung from one side to the other, and perhaps by the will of God came to me, and I suddenly caught it, uppermost above all the rest, and so at length beyond hope came out, at which I rejoiced exceedingly, so that I did not perceive the wound which during the drawing up I had received on my head from a sharp stone, until I, with the rest who were released, as was always done before, had to help with the seventh and last pull, at which time through straining the blood ran down all over my clothes, which I nevertheless, because of my joy, did not take notice of. Now, when the last drawing up on which the most of all hung was finished, the matron caused the cord to be laid aside, and asked her aged son to declare her resolution to the rest of the prisoners, who after he had thought a little spoke thus unto them.
In this vivid depiction of escape, liberation, and freedom, the repeated lowering of a rope into a dungeon serves as a profound metaphor for the elusive nature of spiritual awakening and inner liberation. Each descent of the rope represents an opportunity for enlightenment, challenging the prisoners to overcome not only their physical and emotional bonds, but also the competitive instincts that pit them against each other. The subtle interplay of light and shadow, the bell's toll, and the swift actions of unseen forces all hint at higher, unseen dimensions influencing the material plane. The prisoners' struggles, particularly those whose physical efforts end in self-inflicted wounds, underscore the intense personal sacrifices and trials one undergoes on the path to higher consciousness. The narrative culminates in a moment of serendipitous grace, as the rope fortuitously swings toward the narrator, symbolizing the unexpected and often accidental nature of profound spiritual breakthroughs. This story weaves a complex allegory about the journey towards enlightenment, marked by fleeting chances, deep trials, and the ultimate joy of transcendence, even as physical and emotional scars remain.
The matron caused the cord to be laid aside, and asked her aged son to declare her resolution to the rest of the prisoners, who after he had thought a little, spoke thus unto them, saying, Ye childer dear ye, who are here, it is completed what long hath been known, the great favour which my mother hath here shown you twain, ye should not disdain. A joyful time shall soon be come, when each shall be the other's equal, no one be poor or rich, and who was given great commands must bring much with him now, and who was much entrusted with stripped to the skin will be. Wherefore leave off your lamentation, which is but for a few days. As soon as he had finished these words, the cover was again put to and locked down, and the trumpets and kettle drums began afresh, yet the noise of them could not be so loud, but that the bitter lamentation of the prisoners which arose in the dungeon was heard above all, which soon also caused my eyes to run over. Presently afterwards the ancient matron, together with her son, sat down on seats before prepared, and commanded the redeemed should be told. Now, as soon as she had demanded everyone's name, which were also written down by a little page, having viewed us all, one after another, she sighed, and spoke to her son, so that I could well hear her. Ah, how heartily I am grieved for the poor men in the dungeon. I would to God I could release them all. To which her son replied, It is, mother, thus ordained by God, against whom we may not contend. If we were all of us lords, and possessed all the goods upon earth, and were seated at table, who would there then be to bring up the service? Whereupon his mother held her peace, but soon after she said, Well, however, let these be freed from their fetters, which was likewise presently done, and I was the last except a few. Yet I could not refrain, though I still looked upon the rest, but bowed myself before the ancient matron, and thanked God that through her he had graciously and fatherly vouchsafed to bring me out of such darkness into the light. After me the rest did likewise, to the satisfaction of the matron.
In this richly symbolic narrative, the interaction between the matron and her son encapsulates the dynamic interplay of divine, feminine, and masculine energies, reflecting the balance necessary for spiritual awakening. The matron, embodying the universe or a divine mother figure akin to Shakti, oversees the spiritual destiny of the prisoners, while her son represents the active principle that executes divine will. This balance is crucial in spiritual traditions for accessing higher consciousness. The cord, serving as a spiritual lifeline, symbolizes the connection to the divine that rescues individuals from the dungeon of ignorance and material bondage. The act of freeing the prisoners from their fetters mirrors the liberation from karmic cycles, or an unshackling from self-ignorance, and a new liberation unto new levels of divine union. It may be of note that Christian was one of the last few to be freed from the bunch, suggesting there were many others before him, and perhaps others to come after, perhaps suggesting that enlightenment is an ongoing journey beheld by many various minds at various different points through time. Some having caught at last their great moment, and shining fast as a beacon in the dark, shining bright here for only a brief flicker of time on earth. The son of the matron, speaking the words of the matron on her behalf, tells of a joyous time soon to come when all will be equals, and to entirely quit being negative or lamentful for several days. This is a concealed secret. This is talking about how, at the end of each lunar cycle, the end of each month, is a 3-day period for being as pure and righteously connected as possible to initiate the Sacred Secretion, or Chrism, Christos, or Christ oil, the oil of gladness as spoke of in the Bible, the anointing within that leads to an enlightened state for unto the next month. In the alchemical marriage of the Christian Rosicrucian, as it's also known, the tale begins with our protagonist, Rosenkreutz, immersed in deep contemplation and meditation on the night of Easter Eve, a symbol of impending spiritual renewal. Suddenly, his quiet evening is shattered by a violent storm, a metaphorical herald of the extraordinary journey that lies ahead. Thrust into a mystical adventure, Rosencreutz receives a cryptic invitation to a royal wedding, setting the stage for his quest into the realms of alchemy and enlightenment. As he prepares himself, donning a clean white garment symbolizing his quest for purity, the narrative takes him through a series of enigmatic encounters and foreboding challenges. Each step is fraught with symbolism, from perilous crossings of chaotic seas to mysterious figures that guide or hinder his path, all weaving a rich tapestry of spiritual trials. These initial pages are not just a prelude, but a deep dive into a world where every detail hints at hidden layers of esoteric wisdom, marking the beginning of Rosenkreutz's transformative journey towards a profound spiritual awakening.